Right. So what happens is, if you recall, first they download the freebie. They get a acknowledgement and thank you email to actually download the stuff. Second thing is now they have entered into your 5-day sequence, right? So those 5 emails go out once a day. Why you want to go out once a day is because to get them familiar with you and get them used to getting your emails on a frequent basis. Because if you leave it one a week, right, basically after the first few days, people will forget about you already. So you want to make sure you hit them hard at the start, okay? And if people want to unsubscribe, that's fine too, because they are probably not going to buy from you anyway if they unsubscribe so early. So don't worry about those unsubscribes, okay? You want to make sure you cater to the 90% of people who like your stuff, right? So send out those 5 emails one after another after they sign up for your lead magnet. And then next step is to give out nurturing emails, okay? So what I suggest is these are just useful content, useful emails that you're not pitching anything, you're not selling anything, okay? So I do this right now once a week, but I want to ramp it up to be more frequent. So email your list once a week at least, all right? Even if you outsource, go to Fiverr, get someone to write an article for you, put it on a blog post and send out that email once a week, do it, okay? So Fiverr is this freelance website that you can get people to do stuff for $5 or $10 or $20 kind of thing, right? They can write articles, not a problem, okay? I suggest you find those that, charge at least $15, $20 to write an article. Don't do $5 articles because they really suck, okay? So make sure you email your list once a week, otherwise they will forget about you, okay? Ideally, now this is gonna freak most of you out, is 3 to 7 times a week. The top marketers will email their list every day, okay? The top internet marketers I see are emailing their list every day, and not with sales emails, but actually nurturing emails for the most part. I think 7 days a week is probably a bit extreme, maybe 3 to 4 times a week. That's kind of like where I'm comfortable with. So yeah, but then again, it depends on your industry, okay? But at the very least, once a week, okay? You can also do some soft selling in these emails, but mainly it is useful content. Okay, so let me give you a quick example of a nurturing email. First of all, before we go into that, how do you come up with so many topics to write about? I think it's important to be observant, right? Or to get your marketing person to be observant. Look at what's in the news, okay? What's happening in the news right now, okay? Whether it's to do with the stock market, is to do with the oil in the economics field, whether it's to do with some celebrity, whether it's something to do with some politician, but be careful with politics. Obviously, don't take a stand, right? Whether it's to do with something that happened, a hot topic, right? Put your take on that and write on that topic, okay? And it could be from your own personal daily experience, right? Where you go and, something happens to you on the street, or, you observe something, and what are the lessons from that and you can share that with your basically to your audience, okay? Right, we talked about the hot topics, okay? So these are the things that I guess it will humanize you as well. If you share more about also your feelings about things, your fears, your desires, your thoughts and all that kind of stuff, that's related to what you are doing, obviously. For me, I guess it's kind of easier because I'm in internet marketing. I can kind of relate anything back to marketing, right? So, but for you guys, maybe some of you like Chris selling kitchens, yeah, maybe a little bit trickier, but you can still say, relate daily stuff to selling kitchens as well, kitchen cabinets. Like, for example, about, how you saw someone that seemed to have it all, but actually was hollow inside, and how that can apply to kitchens, where a lot of kitchens look good on the outside, but actually they actually have all these termite issues or whatever, pest problems, right? So yeah, you can also relate that to products as well. So let's share feelings and emotions. I think that can be very powerful. because when people relate with your feelings, with your emotions, that's where you build real trust and real connections. Right, so this is a nurturing email. So I actually created a video for this one. So you can also create videos if you're so inclined. I just want to show you a video example. Here, I use a lot of metaphors, which is like wolves hunting packs, elephants roaming herds, superheroes fighting teams, the strength of numbers. That's why, I made this video for you. Go ahead and watch it now. Okay. So actually, this is not so much a nurturing email. This was for people who attended my webinar, but I made it so that it adds value as well. Okay. So there is content in the video as well. Okay. And also, with the text that I wrote, it's also got content. But just keep an eye on my mailing list because we generate regular content as well. Okay, so this is probably not the best example, but I just want to show you a video as well, so that you don't just think text, you can actually do video as well. So for a lot of you who sell products, for example, you can do like walkthroughs with video, right? So you can demonstrate how your product works, right? By actually getting it out with a skin cream. If you're a real estate agent like Rebecca, you can actually go and do a tour of the property you're selling, right? Go in and show people each room and tell them, hey, imagine you can have your bed here, you can have your sofa here, that kind of stuff. Right, so yeah, I just want to give you also that you can do video.
If you like this video, please like, share, comment, and if you got any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.
All right, and then the final type of emails is selling emails. Okay, so ultimately it's just not about nurturing, right? So I see it this way, like emails is like you're very much like a farmer where you're planting the seed, right? Which is where you have your lead magnet download. You're nurturing it with your first get to know you sequence, and then you're watering it. You're adding fertilizer with your nurture emails all the time, right? And then it's growing, and then now the selling emails is where you can pluck the apples off the tree. Okay, so the selling emails is the harvesting part, right? So first of all, you can do maybe once a month. You can do a use sequence, where you're actually like launching a new product, right? So say, for example, you're launching a new healthcare product. You can have a sequence of 3 emails. First email is where you educate people about the opportunity or the product and make a soft pitch for the offer. Then second email is where you go harder on the offer. Okay, you tell them about all the benefits of the offer, why it's so good, why they're getting a discount now, and they need to act immediately. And third one is the deadline, is like more like a last chance email. This is last chance, better go and get it now, because after this you gotta pay like double the price or whatever it is, and we have limited quantities and so on. Okay, so it's a sequence of maybe 3 emails that you can send over 3 days. That will actually get the most results for you, as opposed to a lot of people, they just send out 1 email and expect to get sales. Okay, you do get sales, but it's not so effective, right? So that's a launch style sequence. So the launch style email, I'm giving you a simple one, right, where there's only 3 emails. There has been cases where in the past I've done like a 14-day sequence, right? A 14-day sequence, and I got a lot of sales, but I also got a lot of unsubscribes. So that also can be done, where you're kind of telling a story. So like day 1 is part 1 of the story, day 2 part 2 of the story, day 3 part 3 of the story, and so on, and then you bring in some other stuff here and there. Okay, so I just want to open your mind that it's not necessarily just 3 emails. Okay. Then the other ones are the soft sell style emails. So this is the one where you have the least unsubscribes, but also maybe the least sales. Now the soft style emails is more like, okay, at the start of the email, it's very nurturing as well. You're giving value. And then you pivot towards making a sale. Halfway through the email, you kind of not change your tone, but you're basically saying, okay, see, you can do this also, this is one way you can, fix your neck problem, these 3 exercises. And then You pivot to say, okay, in some cases, many people have done this exercises, they feel some relief, but they don't get rid of it in 100%. If you want us to check what's wrong with your neck pain, please come in for a free diagnostic or a free test or something, or treatment or something, right? So that's how the soft style, self-style emails work, right? So you're giving value at the start, but then you change it to becoming the helpful person, but at the same time you're pitching your product, okay? And think about it when you're having selling emails, right? Think about what special days there are. Maybe it's Mother's Day, maybe it's what kind of president's holiday, or your customer's birthday, even your birthday, your son's birthday, your wife's birthday, okay? Whatever day, you can Google and say, if you're just out of excuses what to do, just Google and say, okay, what kind of holiday is on this week? All right, and then you just use that holiday. So right now could be the Ramadan special, right? And that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, just find out what's happening. So between the nurturing emails and the selling emails, the ratio should be about around 4:1. So for every 4 emails that you send that are nurturing, you send out 1 email that is focused on sales. Because most people, what they would do is like, once you get on the list, they only send you emails when they're selling you stuff. And that, is annoying as hell if you're the recipient. And secondly, after a while, you won't even read the emails anymore, right? So that's why it's so important to balance it out with 4 nurturing emails to 1 sales email. Okay, so I just want to give you a quick example of a sales email, okay, which is kind of like a nurture turned into a sales pitch kind of thing. So, first of all, you can see I talk about what was relevant. So if you can see, this was about 20 days ago, okay, when oil prices were going negative. So I talk about the oil prices going negative, right? Make it relevant. And stock market recovery losing steam, right? That was happening that week. We may be in for some painful and uncertain times, right? We talk about, wars breaking out, potential pain. Okay, so that's the ugly. Then I don't want people to staying in a negative state, because in a negative state, they're not going to buy anything, right? So I switch it all over to, okay, from the ugly to the beautiful, and I switch to the good news. Your competitors are likely to be hiding, ad costs a lot lower than normal, your prospects are way more reachable. When the lockdown eases, central banks are pumping so much money in the economy, boom times will return. Okay, so now it's time to get aggressive, build goodwill and relationships with your prospects. So when they're ready to spend, you are their number 1 choice. Then I pitch to going into the webinar, right? So where I'm sharing my top 10 ideas and strategies and generate sales. Make sure you sign up here for this free webinar, right? And then I the beautiful word corresponds to here. So I kind of tie it all up, right? So negative first, scare people, right? Because fear is a great motivator, right? Who knows that? So let me give you an example. I say, hey, Peter, you're sitting on this chair, but I suggest you sit on that chair, which is more comfortable. Chances of you getting up and sitting there is like, yeah, you will do it, but you're going to do it maybe slowly. You're going to think about it, kind of stuff. But if I light a fire on your chair, you're going to change chairs pretty quickly, right? And that's the whole thing with fear, okay? So here we get their attention using fear, and then we kind of swap it over to pleasure. And yeah, one thing is always have a PS. I like having a PS in the emails, because sometimes people will skip the whole thing or read little bits and go to the PS, okay? So make sure your PS is strong when you write your emails.